Welcome to From Head to Heart and Home. We're excited to have you listen to our conversation. This is a channel created by women, empowering women to take intentional action in creating the life they want, with your hosts, Shanda Soretti, certified coach, and Carla Center, subconscious healer. So today, and as you all know, topics come last minute. We're going to talk about the right people, the right places, the right things. You want to start us off, Shanda?
Oh, do I ever? I'm really excited about this one. I mean, I think we say that every time we press record, but that's a good thing.
Yeah.
And Carl and I just picked this one before starting, and I feel like there's going to be a lot of juicy stuff here to deliver today. So we're talking about the right people, the right places, and the right things. And what we mean here, to give you some context, is that the idea that we can put ourselves in all of the right places, in front of all of the right people, with all of the right things, and still not find results, still not create that change in our lives. And what I believe to be true around this is it's because transformation or change it requires a few things. It requires a choice. Okay. It requires a willingness, and it also requires action. So you might be taking action, putting yourself in the right places, in front of the right people, with the right things, and you made the choice that yes, you want to do this, but maybe you're a little bit reluctant or hesitant on the willingness to actually open yourself up to the possibility of something different. And my belief around why we do this, I want to share, and I believe that it's because there's fear there, right? Change can be scary because it's unknown. We love certainty. We're just hardwired that way. And so when we willingly put ourselves in these places or experiences to invite change, fear automatically shows up too, right? So there's a few things with that as well. We need to learn how to become okay with fear being present, especially when we know the choice that we're making is to our benefit and will help us move forward.
Right. Right. And having an awareness of really what you're doing, what you are doing. You can be in the right place. And like Shanda said, the fear is there. But what are the choices that you make on a normal basis?
Mm.
Because you can step into front of the right people. And if you are still keeping yourself in this little box that felt comfortable, because it still doesn't feel comfortable even because you're there, but it's more comfortable than if you just let yourself take inspired action in that moment.
Mm.
There is a reason why when we open ourselves up to any possibility, huge things happen
Mm-hmm.
because we're
Yeah.
stepping outside of the fear. But you can step into, and I can speak to this. I have stepped in front of many a person in big forums, and I trip over my words because I'm thinking small. All I could think of was the times when I had somebody tell me I looked foolish, or I felt like I've always been my biggest critic, felt foolish. And so
Mm.
you're in front of these people and they do not get to see the true you
Mm.
because your expectation is the past. You
Right.
expect it to turn out like it always has,
Yeah.
instead of being open to anything can happen.
Mm-hmm.
Anything can happen. The most magical things can happen. The more you step outside of your comfort zone, the more you are, and you use that curiosity that Shanda talks about all the time, to be curious as what else is possible, the more you grow and expand and see so much more than you even thought was possible in your life.
Yeah.
But as long as you stay in that same, no matter who's in your life, you can have the greatest education, the most amazing mentors. But if you keep your focus in that this is how it's all going to work, you keep blinders on, okay, this is the way it's going to go, you limit yourself,
Mm.
in so many ways, instead of having this curiosity and this awareness of, okay, what has happened in the past? What is my part in it?
Hmm.
You know, not what did somebody else do to me, because never getting into that spot doesn't help you. What was my part in it? Where have I kept myself small? And be honest about that, you know, instead of saying, well, so and so said this about me, or I did this. Be open to, okay, this is the part I played in it. Where can I expand from here?
Yeah. Yeah. I love that you're talking about comfort zones and that type of thing, Carla, because the comfort zone is, I think, one of the biggest things that stops us, right? And that's fear is also encompassed in there too. But the comfort zone, it's like we get to do uncomfortable things. And I think, I used to have the mentality that uncomfortable was bad, right? And it's like, not necessarily. Uncomfortable is actually really good. And if we can change our perspective on what that actually means based on what it can allow us to create, I think we would experience life a lot differently, right? And when you're talking about looking to the past, right? I have the belief as well that that is what we do in everyday circumstances and situations. What we're doing is we're evaluating what's happening or what's about to happen, right? What we're anticipating to happen, but we're basing it off of past experiences. And I can't remember who says this, and I'm not going to say it like verbatim, but we cannot create a future based on the past. So what I always like to share with clients is that we can't be looking to the past for our answers. We can, mind you, we'll get the exact same results or close to. So if we want to create something different, something new, we need to be future focused. We need to be in the now moving forward, not in the past trying to recreate things, right? And this brings up a couple different concepts as well. It brings up the concept of being rigid versus flexible, right? And for me, in my personal experience, vulnerability is the key to healing and changing and transformation. Vulnerability is a must. It's a prerequisite. And we're not wired for vulnerability. It is something that we need to learn and we need to practice and get better at doing, right? It's a way of being. Being in vulnerability is a really beautiful place to be. And you can actually, believe it or not, you can build resilience within vulnerability. So vulnerability does not mean lay down, you're dead, lay down, give up, right? Vulnerability means that you're willing to open yourself up to the potential of having something happen. Whether that something is positive or negative is kind of irrelevant. It's the willingness to open yourself up to receiving experiences. Okay. Like I said, you can build resiliency within the context of vulnerability, but it does take that work, right? So going back to I'm going to say this wrong. Rigidity. Is that a word?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Versus flexibility. When we're rigid, it's because we're holding on to an idea and we're holding on to something and we're holding on to life the way it is and we're unwilling to let it go. We're like, no, it has to be like this. That is where control lives, right? And when we're in control and when we're being rigid, there is no room for vulnerability, which also means there is no room for growth.
Right.
So flex over literally into being flexible. And all that means is simply loosening the reins a little bit, not needing to have control over every single thing, and being a little bit more go with the flow. Right?
Right. And if you think about it, I mean, in our history, the biggest expansions have happened when people were open. I mean, we thought the world was flat, right?
Isn't
You know,
it? Oh, just kidding.
but the same, I mean, that's really honestly, if you're open to things not being exactly the same, being open to what can come in, things can change in a way that you never expected. And you're like, I would have never thought this could
Mhm.
happen to me, but I am so joyful about it. And that's about what Shanda's saying. I mean, when you're open and it's flexible, things and it can go bounce up and down. I watched a video yesterday. It's this gentleman, he's going upstairs, he falls off the stairs and bounces back onto the stairs, and he may go back a step, but he ends in the end he ends up at the top. So it's that, not thinking that every little thing that you think is a misstep is bad and just laying there, but
Mhm.
bouncing back and seeing what the next step is, because it will get you somewhere else.
Yeah. That reminds me of Paula Abdul's song, or opposites attract or something, like
Yeah.
one step forward, two steps back, right?
Yes,
Something like
that's
that. You guys
exactly the
remember that from
song.
like the 80s, I think. And it's funny because I was just coaching a client this morning, and one of the things that came up was sometimes in order to speed up, we need to slow down, which sounds completely counterintuitive, but it actually works. And what I'll share here is that I found from what she shared, she was being very rigid. She wanted so badly these specific changes, and she was almost forcing it. And so I told her, I gave her the analogy of a triangle. I was like, listen, you can be looking down on a triangle, right? That comes to a head at the bottom, which is really forceful, and you're trying to cram all this stuff into this tiny little space. Or you can open yourself up and like lean back, and the triangle flips upside down, and now you have access to a much larger space, right? So I kind of tried to flip it for her, and she got to have this kind of aha moment of being like, wow, yeah, I really am trying to push through this resistance and push through in a way that's not supporting me. It's actually making things harder and worse. And what if I just kind of release the reins a little bit and let go of some pressure and let the things unfold, as opposed to cramming them all in one place at one time.
Right. Well, and that limits you on getting to really see things as they unfold and being grateful for the things that unfold, whether you deem them positive or negative. As if you open yourself up, you learn,
Mm,
and you also are like, wow, all of the things that came to me, I never expected. Even though sometimes there are little things you're like, ooh, I didn't like that. The uncomfortable that Shanda's talking about. Each step, like I was saying, you go back and forth, but you expand way more than you would if you are so focused on this little bitty space. It's almost like a light going through a magnifying glass,
mm,
right? The tiny little point, but if you could see it when it comes out,
yeah.
that that little space that you're so focused on, but really when it opens up, if you really see the whole thing, it's huge
Mm.
and limitless.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And like how you're talking about openness, Carla, it's when we're rigid, we're not open,
Right.
right? We're only looking at usually one or two particular things. And it reminds me of like manifesting in a sense. So I'm going to shift gears here for a quick second, but
Oh, of course.
it reminds me of when we try to manifest something. Sometimes, like, it's important to be specific, but sometimes we're almost too granular, and we're so specific that we're not opening up to something greater happening,
Right.
right? And it's like, what if you have access to something even better than what you originally thought, right? So I mean, the idea of today's conversation is about putting yourself not only in the right places, in front of the right people, with the right things, but having made the choice to do the work, taking the action to back that up and create the results, but overall being willing and open to receiving the opportunities, the growth, and the learning that comes along that journey, right?
Right. And when you're so focused and rigid, you are not open to receiving, quite honestly.
No.
You're not. And that's when we go, well, I did everything you said, but I didn't get anything,
Right.
because you're closing off your energy of receiving.
Yeah. Yeah. And this also, when you say, if you catch yourself saying this, or if you've said this in the past, which I have too, it's okay, we're human, but I've done everything you said and it's still not working. You give your power away to whoever that said person is, and you are placing your growth and your responsibility onto somebody else, right? So notice there, automatically when you give your power away, you place that blame on somebody or that responsibility on somebody else. You automatically, and you probably maybe aren't even aware, but automatically you go into victim mentality. It's not my fault, it's their fault. I can't do it because of XYZ. It's like, you know what? What if we can simply omit I can't do it because of XYZ and fill that in with I will keep trying until it works. I will keep trying until I figure it out, right? Making that goal or result a no matter what. Like we've talked about no matter what before here, but redundancy is queen in the land of change, as far as I'm concerned.
Yes. Well, and when you have it that you think it's going to happen a certain way, so maybe somebody did give you the steps and the tools, but your expectations of how it's going to happen are not how it's meant to happen for you.
Right.
You're like so narrow, that rigidity that Shanda's, you're so narrow that there are things popping in at you that you don't even realize you,
Yeah.
because like I've said many times, because I do subconscious healing, we filter out 95 to 99%, depends on, the study of the things that come into us. But if we have this expectation it's going to happen a certain way, all of the other possibilities that have come in, because I took those steps, I don't see them because I expect it to go this way when it's
Yes.
going this way.
Yes.
And
Yes.
the frequency, you'll see all the frequency things, and you'll notice the more stuff straight, the less happens.
Yep.
But the more it goes like this, the faster it happens for you.
Mm. Yeah. I mean, I know, Carla, you and I have talked about this specifically as well around our own personal growth with our businesses and with our personal lives. And it's like sometimes we want so badly to have the magic process, laid out in front of us. Tell me the steps, somebody, please just tell me the
Right.
steps. It's like, okay, there's a reason for, I don't know how many, but let's say hundreds of thousands of business coaches and healing coaches and help and support and all the things. There's a reason why there's so many of those people, because it's not a one size fits all. What works for you might not work for me, and vice versa, and down the line, and so on and so forth. So it's like finding the right people with the right tools in the right places, right, is part of that. But it's also, I believe, to a certain point, it's open for your own interpretation and your own spin.
Yes.
That is the magic sauce. So, okay, this is going to be funny. Not that I eat McDonald's anymore, but that's okay. You know the Big Mac at McDonald's. Okay. So picture somebody's process, the bun, okay? And then picture like, another step of that process being the meat, and then another one being the lettuce and all the things that are on there. Okay. That is somebody's process. That is their step by step. Here's how you do it. And they give you the Big Mac. You're like, oh, I'm so excited for this Big Mac. It's going to be delicious. You take a bite and you're like, oh, wait a minute, it's missing something. Like, and then you open it up and you look at it and there's no sauce. It's just dry. There's no sauce. You are the sauce on that Big Mac. So when you get a process, you get to add your own flavor to that sandwich and make it your own. That's our gift. Our gift is to be unique. So where in your life can you put your own unique spin on things, including processes or processes, right?
Right. Right. And that's another reason why there's so many different coaches, healers, all of that, because we do have our own spin. When I worked with two other therapists, we were doing the same, but we
Yeah.
weren't,
Yeah.
because I'm very different. And I would always tell my clients that I have I'm very nurturing. And so somehow that makes the process feel different and come across
Mhm.
different. And
Absolutely.
that's the thing. And so also when you're the client, your own spin on things is going to be very different, but you have to be open to that. You have to allow yourself to be you
Mm.
in a way that you have the most incredible breakthroughs when you're open. When you say, well, that's not how I do things, or that's because you're being rigid. It is not because you're being you.
Right.
Someone has taught you this is where how it's safe to be
Right.
this way in
Yeah.
this box.
Yep.
And so that's one of the reasons why when we were talking about people, places, you can, I mean, I've had incredible mentors and they have like guided me and I've frozen,
Mm.
and I've watched clients do that too. But at the same time, when I am just me, people are like, wow, what, what's different? And I'm like, because I am not in my head, I'm in my heart, like we always talk
Uh-huh.
about, and it changes how things flow for me.
Yeah. You're not trying to fit a mold, right?
Right, right. And that's the same with clients. When we work with our clients, that's why you get to know your clients, because you can give all kinds of different tools based on you watching them and what will work for them.
Yeah.
If Shanda and I like wrote out this thing that everybody has to do it a certain way, some people would be so unhappy because it would not work for them.
Yeah.
And that's why we have a multiple basket of tools. I mean, my toolbox is huge, so is yours, because we know that different things work for different people at different times in their lives. So
Mm-hmm.
that's why you're in the same place. You could be in the same place 10 years from now, and you have changed so much that the experience with the same people, even if they've not changed every little piece, it would be totally different because
Yeah.
you are different.
Yes. Yeah. It's like, okay, so what I tell clients when they first come to me, start to work with me in a container, I tell them whether they've done work or not, whatever you've learned on your journey up until now is amazing. And you get to put it in a box and just set it over here while we're in our coaching session together, right? Take everything you know, gather it up, and put it in this beautiful little box, and we're going to put it to the side just for our call. The reason why I do this with my clients is because sometimes, hey, listen, we love to be right. And when we're right, we're focused on a certain outcome and getting to a certain place in a specific way. And all the things we're talking about, control and being rigid. And that does not equal transformation. So if I can help them to understand when we're going to put those things to the side, you're going to use them later and they will have their place and they'll come back and all these things, we'll sprinkle them in. But I want you to kind of forget everything you've learned so that you can learn something new, right? That is like one of my biggest things that I really drive home in the beginning. And there is a reason why we like a process. I learned this, and it took me 4 years, I think, to learn this, trial and error. And all of a sudden, one day I was like, oh, now I get it. So a process builds confidence. When you have a step-by-step process, how to do something, it will help you build the confidence so that you can go and do the thing. Because when you've never done something, you likely don't have the confidence to do that thing a certain way, to perform a certain way, right? So the process helps you build the confidence. Now, here's what I failed to understand in the beginning, 4 years in the beginning, is that once you've built your confidence, you can let go of certain processes. You can make them your own. You can start playing with things and adjusting things and putting your own flavor on things, right? So everybody listening, I'm talking about your healing journey. I'm also talking about anything else you're trying to create in your life, right? If you have a process, use it and learn it until you build up confidence. Once you have some confidence, trust yourself to release the reins and like let yourself fly. Because here's the analogy. So long as you are so believing in this one specific process being the end all be all, and you're holding on to this rope, this is the process, it's the rope, you will only be able to go as long or as far as that rope is. If you let go and you trust yourself and your own abilities and your own uniqueness, you can let go, and then it's limitless. Like Carla was saying earlier, you don't have that anchor. You don't need an anchor anymore. You can trust your process and trust your own beautiful brain and your own beautiful heart and body and soul to create what it is you want to create.
That's
Yay.
beautiful. It made me think I'm visualizing somebody with training wheels. It's like having
Yeah.
the training wheels, and
Yeah.
you can only go so fast with those training wheels. But once you take them, because you are steady enough,
Mm,
feel confident enough to go on your own. And we all know some kids don't
mm.
feel confident and you don't tell them and they take off.
Yes.
But if they have the training wheels, it's you're limited. You're
Yes.
limited. But there's a purpose to it.
Yes. Okay. That is such a beautiful analogy, because what this brings up for me is this: the path of imperfection. You guys, I don't know about you, but when my training wheels came off, it wasn't a no fall time after that. There were spills. I took many tea kettle. You know what I'm saying? Okay. It happened. I ate the dirt, so to speak, or the
Yes.
dirt ate me because I lost some skin in the process. But the beautiful thing about when you let go and you trust and you follow your own, you create your own process, right? Is that the falling isn't failing. The falling is the learning. And it's the learning you wouldn't have gotten in front of had you not let go in the first place. You would have never learned that. Right. So now you can kind of see how the universe is always offering you specific things for your specific needs, always. So let go, fall down, learn the lesson, and get back up.
Right. And it's uncomfortable. Things are uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And we are taught to do things to keep things from being uncomfortable. As a recovering people pleaser, I mean, people pleasers do not like to be uncomfortable. We don't allow others to learn, by the way. If you're
Mm,
always rescuing people, they can't learn. If you're avoiding every kind of uncomfortable emotion because it's uncomfortable to you and you've deemed them negative, by the way, it doesn't mean they are. So I think of it that way. So we could be that's why I'm saying there's some of us that could be in a million places that could do amazing things in our lives. But if we don't learn to be that uncomfortable that Shanda was talking about, you're riding your bike, but you're like, I'm not taking off these flipping training wheels. It's a race. All these people are running, and I could just enjoy the race and see where I come in and be so proud of
mm,
myself for all the things I accomplished, or I can keep my training wheels on and just barely make it through.
yeah.
And be like, say, I did it. Look, I did it. It didn't do much for me. I
Right.
didn't enjoy it.
Right.
Or I can take off the training wheels. I can take off, maybe I'll have a few spills, but at the end, I can go, wow, wow, look at what I accomplished. Look at what
Yeah.
I did. And look at how much I've grown in
Yes.
the process.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, coming back to the idea of taking the training wheels off allows you to learn things that you cannot learn with the training wheels on. For example, like literally talking about training wheels, when you have training wheels on, you don't learn the balance thing. That's what they remove, that need, right? So you don't have to balance. That is something that if you keep those training wheels on, you will never learn, right? And I don't know. I just think that this is such a beautiful conversation to hopefully inspire you guys to take off your metaphorical, and if you still have real for real training wheels on in any way, take them off. Blow the doors off those things, right? And just learn how to trust. And that's not going to come overnight. Like sometimes I understand that maybe the way that Carl and I talk about things is like, oh, this is easy, but hopefully we sprinkle along enough that it's not always easy. There will be moments where you might be like, oh, wow, that was a lot easier than I thought. But there also will be, winter seasons and challenging times and obstacles to overcome. But again, like falling down, that is where your growth opportunities are waiting. They're around every corner. They're, they're around all of the obstacles. They're around every single thing that's hard. Whenever you feel like you're coming up to something that is hard, I always say that is your flag to run straight at that thing. That is your next goal post. Don't turn around and run away like we all want to do. No, 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 no. You face it head on and you run as fast as you can towards it, right? And it might be like, it might be like a mirage where the obstacle's not even there to begin with, or you might run into the wall and fall down, right? But you will learn something in that process, and that is a guarantee. So long as you're open to the learning, again, that willingness to be open to receiving the information, right? Mm.
Wow. And it's like when anybody that hikes, when you're hiking up a mountain, there are times you stop. You're like, oh, what was I thinking?
Mm.
I can't do this. You take a little break and then you get back up and you get going. And when you get to the top, you're like, wow,
Mm.
wow, I did this. Wow, I really enjoyed this. Now at moments at the bottom, I didn't think I was going to, and so that's like when the running stayed on. You hit the wall, but that doesn't mean you give up. You just keep going. And
Yeah.
the exhilaration when you create something in a way that you didn't expect is so I don't even know how to explain it. So fantastic. I've watched Shanda do it, so I know she understands what I'm saying. You're just like, I never thought that this would come of this, right? Because
Mm.
we're always learning, we're always growing. And even as coaches and healers, we're always growing, and we're always like, everybody hits walls.
Yeah.
Nobody's smooth sailing. And that's one of those things about like social media and people make things look like it's all so smooth. It's like glass. Things go so simply.
Mm.
But the reality of life is things can have moments that are hard, but
Yes.
not all of them.
Right.
If you're open to whatever's going to happen, maybe it will be easy, maybe it'll be a challenge. And some people love the challenge, by the way. Some people really enjoy the challenge, but others want it to go smooth. But to just be open to whatever, I really want to just make it to something incredible. And
Mm.
I'm not going to sit here and just let life happen to me.
Right. Yeah, you bring up a really good point around the temporary discomfort, right? So we need to be willing to experience temporary discomfort for long-term results.
Mhm.
I mean, if you don't take anything else away from this call, hopefully it's something along those lines, right? Going back to the comfort piece. Yes, we want comfort, but what does comfort give you? Right? What does it provide for you? It's just more of the same. Nothing else is created, nothing new happens. And it's not exciting. You fizzle, right? Even if we do grow and we reach a certain point, we're like, okay, I'm done. I'm going to stay here. And because you're like, oh, I feel so good and everything's great and life is this and la 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 la. That will fizzle if you don't continue to get out of the comfort zone. It's a continuous thing, right? And so it's like you got to be willing to experience temporary discomfort, meaning something like this. Okay, I'm going to just try and make it as simple as I can. If you're somebody who wants to lose weight, you get to be willing to have temporary discomfort, meaning you might have to go to the gym, right? And you're like, I hate the gym. Well, if you go to the gym, you'll get the results in the long term, right? Or maybe it means changing the way you eat. Maybe you have to you get to eat a salad, like a beautiful, nourishing salad instead. Temporary discomfort. Maybe I'm trying to think of other examples. Carla, do you have something for temporary discomfort for long-term result? Maybe money. Maybe
Yes.
it's okay, I got to stop spending so frivolously and just buy. Maybe I have to start saving if I want to go put my down payment on a house.
Right.
Okay, temporary discomfort, and it's okay, guys. It's totally okay. If you want to create the results you want to create, you're going to have to do something different. Or we'd already have what the thing is that we want, right? We'd have the results already.
Yes.
The last thing that I want to talk about that came up for me, Carla, when you were just sharing was when, like you were saying, like doing the thing, right? Like do the thing and surprise yourself. When you commit to creating a specific result, right? You will be, you will experience so much pride and joy on the other side of having accomplished that thing. And I really don't care how small the thing is, you will still experience pride and joy, because creating results requires a few things like commitment, consistency, resiliency, being resourceful, right? And those are all really cool attributes and characteristics to want to build and grow. So do the thing, do the uncomfortable thing, get what you want, and whatever happens in between is a-okay.
Exactly. I love that. I love that. And it's just beautiful to watch yourself like get through the tough things instead of because we will, Shanda and I've talked many times about you gather information to reinforce. So when those uncomfortable things come up, instead of gathering all the thing information that proves that you should stay where you were,
Mm,
be open to what will come in. That's where the awareness comes in. Okay, this is what I've always done. This is what I tell myself. So this time I'm be like, nope, this is not how it's going this time.
mm.
And stepping forward. That's a one step forward, two steps back. When
Yeah,
you're like, okay, nope, not this time.
right.
I'm choosing differently
Yeah,
and I'm going to be open to something different.
yeah.
And then you get to really experience the pride and joy. And you're like, wow, it's the consistency. It's the anything that's worth having is going to have moments when you're like, ooh, I didn't want to do that, but I guess I'm going to do it. And then when you go
Mhm.
afterwards, you're like, it wasn't as bad as I thought. Not like I convinced myself it was going to be.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's just such a wonderful opportunity for learning today and for growth into understanding truly what this journey entails, right? There's highs, there's lows, there's challenges, there's rewards, there's so many things. And together, everything together is what makes the experience such a beautiful experience, right? It's like 50-50. Life is 50-50. Healing is 50-50. It's half wonderful and half challenging, right? And knowing that is really a blessing and a gift, because it takes that need to have this perfected experience or this like polished experience. Let it be messy. And, it's like the more messy, the more you learn to an extent. You know what I mean? So long as you're aware and looking around for the value in the learning and in the opportunities, right?
Right. And imagine how much more you value it at the end when
Yeah.
when it has been messy. Like
Yeah.
we learn from that, how to value
Yeah.
things. We're like, oh wow,
Hmm.
we're new, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any other points you want to bring up?
I think that the thing that I want to finish with on my end is what we just talked about letting it be messy, right? And it's unique for everybody. This is another reason why being in community with other people, finding even just one other person to share your journey with, share your mess with, and just be you is so beautiful, because I can guarantee two people will not learn the same things the same way. So this is what Carl and I do with each other all the time. We're always sharing the things that we're going through and the things that we're learning and how we're learning them and how we're processing them. And it's really cool because it's very different. 9 times out of 10, it's very, very different. So I think we mentioned this a couple weeks ago, but she brings a whole nother experience to my healing just by her sharing hers with me. So sharing your experience is literally giving a gift to other people. Not only just a gift of they're not alone and a gift of hope, but it's learning through others, right? We can learn through other people, and that's beautiful, right? and you'll learn things once again that you would not have learned on your own because brains work very differently. So share your journey. I don't care if it's 20 people or one other person, get in community with people and share what you're doing and listen and receive their sharing too.
Beautiful. Yes. And when you share like that and have community, it supports your growth in a way you didn't expect as
Yep.
well.
Yep.
Because Shanda and I bounce ideas off each other. We bounce all kinds of things off each other because we do think differently. There are a lot of things we have alike, but there are a lot of things we have different. And she can bring up an aspect I wouldn't have thought of, and vice versa, because we would like to grow more instead of staying in that tunnel that we tell you all that you want to break out of. And that's the beauty of community, not only to have somebody that listens and understands and supports you being vulnerable and growing, but somebody that will also call you on something that you're being narrow in your thought process, and they can say something and you're like, I never thought of it. That perspective did not ever
Yep.
come up for me.
Yep.
And that's the beauty. And you'll find it's not everybody will be in the place that you want them to be when you share, but you will, if you're open, you can find people online, you can find people in your community. There is way more than the little space we currently have ourselves in.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
know, Shanda and I are thousands of miles apart.
Yeah, actually, let's share what area of the world we're in. This is kind of fun since you brought it up.
Yeah, and I am in Southern Oregon, so I'm on the west coast of the United States.
Right. And I'm on the East Coast in Canada, in New Brunswick. So we are hundreds of thousands of miles, or at least thousands of miles away from each other.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's really cool. And our time schedules are completely different. Like she's 4 hours behind me. And, but it's really cool. We make it work. And, you know, what we get, right? How we support each other, the support, the friendship, the understanding, the compassion, that is worth the figuring out the other things, right? We just make it work. Like it's not a problem. It's just not a problem.
Right.
So,
And we just came across each other in a
yeah.
leadership thing. It's not
Yeah.
like we were out looking for friends.
Yeah. No. And that's another thing too. We were open to whatever happened, right? We went into this program without a single clue, literally, of what it entailed. We weren't allowed to know ahead of time. Oh my gosh, that was brain racking, right? Nerve wracking. But we ended up taking so much away from it because we didn't have any preconceived expectations or control set up. You know what I mean? And we walked away with a beautiful friendship and lots of learning and so many amazing life lessons, right? That still continue to unfold as we move forward. And that was almost 2 years ago, which is wild to think that it'll be 2 years in March. So yeah, crazy.
Yeah. And that's the thing, that some people there were over 100 of us.
Yeah, 125.
Yeah, so people had very different experiences, and that has to do with the stuff that Shanda and I were talking about today. You had to be very open, and you could not have your expectations for things to be a certain way. And the more open you were to it being anything, the more you grew.
Right.
And there was incredible growth for me in that. And, that's why I'm able to be so vulnerable with you all. I mean, I could pretend like everything was always easy, that I wasn't the quiet one in the background. But that wouldn't be the truth. And that would be, I want you to be vulnerable with me too, for your own growth.
Yeah.
And so that's the beauty of just being open to it, because it can be scary. Like, we were on Zoom in front of 120 some other people, well, 130 something, because we had all the coaches and all that stuff, and you're just like open to it, and it can be scary, but the growth that happened for me, because I was open and terrified, and also, like we talked in the feedback one, I chose to have rapid fire 5 people saying all these things about me who didn't know me in front of 100 and some other people. But I grew from that. And then that's where, when because people could say to me before, you only hear what resonates with you. I only heard certain things in those 5 people, whereas other people heard other stuff that was towards me, but it didn't, it wasn't part of what I believed. So I didn't hear it. So that's why, as we're open and we're like, I could have been closed and been like, do you know what they said about me? But no, I'm like, where is that coming from? So
Right.
be open for your growth.
Yeah.
Know that moments that are terrifying can be some of your biggest growth
Mm,
opportunities.
absolutely. And vulnerability is queen,
Mhm.
right?
Okay, I'm complete. Are you complete?
I am.
Okay. So thank you for tuning into our channel From Head to Heart and Home with Shanda and Carla. If you enjoyed our conversation, make sure to click that subscribe button so you get all the notifications. Be sure to join us next week for another authentic, connected conversation. We love having you. And if you have any kinds of topics you want or questions, please put them in the comments. We love to interact. We love to, have ideas of what you guys are wanting, because like we said, we just come up with them at the last minute. So if there's something you want, we'd love it. And we're going to go. Bye for now.